This is Agent Dick Fury.
And this is Captain Fluffy Mallard.
And we're here to give you our full report of Captain Marvel.
How's your eye?
Good, why?
Looks good.
Thank you. The 2019 remake of My Super Ex-Girlfriend is finally here. This time it's told through the eyes of Nick Fury replacing Luke Wilson, and replacing the titular superhero girlfriend is Brie Larson.
The star of the movie really should have been me, Goose the cat. Fuck Captain Marvel. She was a complete fucking bore in this movie.
The first act was slow and choppy and confusing, and I'm trying to get a sense of, like, are they going to let us know who she is early, or make us kind of get it in like a Born Identity kind of a way where we learn as it goes? All we learn is that she's a chamber of powers that need to be unleashed, instead of what makes her tick, what makes her emotional, what makes her feel, what does she care about, what is her interests. You learn that about 5 different characters in one Guardian of the Galaxy movie.
They blew it on her as a character, and that's one thing that Marvel has always done a really great job, especially in their origin films, is spending enough time on developing that character, getting you to love the personality of every single one of these MCU characters. I don't see this character growing on me in any way. She's supposedly bringing this confidence to the role that just came across as like arrogant to me. We don't learn anything about her as a real person throughout almost the entire film. By the end, you're still kind of questioning why would I like this character or be interested in seeing more of this character in the MCU. And almost every other time, whether it's Doctor Strange, Ant-Man, whatever it is, these side characters that not everybody is in love with just because of name recognition, they've done a good job of establishing why that character fits into the MCU and is interesting. This character doesn't even fit in the MCU. She's way too effing fucking powerful.
You know, they give you these glimpses in the trailer of her with the Star Force, how the teamwork is with the Star Force, and her interactions with some of these other people. When the adventure finally begins and the setup's over, I still know nothing about Star Force. I know nothing about her relationship with Jude Law, except like he trains her how to fight.
Yes, his part in this movie was muddled. There's a setup for who he is, and then a payoff later of who he might be. And actors like Jude Law saved the movie. Actors like Ben Mendelsohn, who was definitely one of the standouts of this movie.
Abso-freaking-lutely.
The first act, somewhat interesting because you don't know everything, and it's going on this kind of non-linear path to some degree. You're seeing her past, you're seeing where she's at in the present. We know a future to the world that this series takes place. So it was kind of fun trying to figure out where things fit in that first and even middle act. We as an audience are learning along with her, although I don't think you'll learn a whole lot. You learn more about what the side characters are doing in this movie than you do her path and her storyline.
Well, and I appreciate the direction of the movie much more once the adventure starts, and once kind of the quibby sort of like action buddy cop element starts. I thought that stuff works great.
The formula that Marvel has set down.
That kicks in the second act. My biggest criticism of this entire movie, something I'm almost glad happened, and that I don't feel that this is an origin story for Captain Marvel. I feel that this is a Nick Fury spin-off prequel.
What?
Is so much more focused on Nick Fury as the younger character who's naive and hasn't seen aliens before and doesn't know about these otherworldly threats. There's so much more focus on that than there is on who she becomes from the beginning to the end of the movie. So that's the weakest point of the movie, because it's called Captain Marvel, not The Adventures of Nick Fury. But make that movie. Make that movie happen.
The honest to God star of this movie, walking out of this movie, the one I was most happy to have spent my time with in this film was young Agent Nick Fury.
Who the fuck is this asshole?
He was so fucking entertaining.
Even though he's not really the Nick Fury we've come to know, and the movie doesn't really suggest that that's where he ends up going, he's just a very different character. I still had fun watching it, and Samuel L. Jackson was just chewing the shit out of the scenery. He was awesome in it. When he gets moments with Ben Mendelsohn's Skrull character, it's fucking gold. It's the best stuff of the movie for sure. Yeah.
Those two were really the standout human performers in the movie, but gotta keep giving it to that cat.
This is Pinky. He's a male. He's a very loving cat.
Take a page out of something like Captain America: The First Avenger. Show her in her youth in the military. That I'm not even the biggest Captain America: The First Avenger fan, but those little subtle moments of showing him get beat up, how he lived in Brooklyn as a little shrimp, and then him fighting so hard, him jumping on that grenade in boot camp, says so much about who he is. Why do I want her to become super powerful? I don't know her yet. I don't know if she's got good intentions or a heart of gold the way Captain America does. I'm sure she does, but they don't tell us that in this movie.
So let's talk about nostalgia, the 90s nostalgia in this movie. Some of it worked, some of it doesn't. And I think when you see a movie set in the 90s, it just doesn't stand out as all that different from the current world. They cram in some music from the 90s era, and when we say cram, they certainly cram it in there because it really just feels forced in almost every scene. You pointed out one that didn't even work from a timeline standpoint, so...
A ton of it doesn't work from a timeline standpoint. Yeah, I don't want to get into specifics, but there's details about music that our lead character has in her head that she should not know about because she's not around for these 90s songs.
Some of the nostalgia that did work that you can play up from the 90s is the early 90s tech. Now that stuff kind of worked for me, and that certainly is lives in its own time period. But when it comes to the fashion, the musical choices, the architecture of the world that you're in, the cars people are driving, it just doesn't stand out as really all that different from today's era.
And because they kept everything so small and close up, you didn't really see a big section of a city with a bunch of 90s fashion and 90s cars. It was very specific, even the car chase.
One of the nostalgic moments that worked for us really well was Stan Lee's cameo.
Oh man, my favorite Stan Lee cameo.
And you actually get two cameos to some degree. There's two moments that focus on Stan Lee, and one of them had the audience clapping.
And I'm not 100% blaming Brie Larson. The writing of this movie was really bad. It was the weakest thing. But you know what? You're an Oscar-winning actress. You got to give us something better than that. You're right.
Sorry, hairball.
There it is. I don't really know what the strongest act is of this movie because I don't think any of them are that strong. I do like the comedic moments. I love Ben Mendelsohn. I love the cat. Brie Larson looks the fucking part. She just has to have more to do, and she has to seem a little more enthusiastic. I think the actress, was really confused about who this person was. Maybe she didn't do the research by reading the comics, because the script certainly wasn't going to help her.
I think she was reading Shazam comics and got confused whether she was... I think she's a good actress. In some of her more dramatic roles, she's done a good job, but as we've said before, when she's in these blockbusters, it's just kind of a phoned-in performance. I was never bored in this movie. Even if there were moments that Brie Larson wasn't really doing a great job in the character, I was never bored in the movie. I felt like it was paced well enough to keep me entertained.
And we got to give a shout out to Clark Gregg coming back as Agent Phil Coulson. Not a big part. A little disappointed it wasn't a little bigger, but it was good to see him in there.
What'd you think of the de-aging that they did on Coulson and Samuel Jackson?
It was amazing. Samuel Jackson, fuck
you.
It was perfect. I mean, I don't even remember him as an actor that young.
It wasn't distracting. I was worried I was going to be distracted the whole time. So yeah, the direction was not that great for me, but I liked the pacing of the movie. I thought it worked well. Is your eye all right?
Yeah, it's fine. Why do you keep asking me?
I don't know. It's looking... Let me see. It's looking a little... Yeah, your eye looks better now.
Shut up. I know I was bashing on this movie for this review for the most part. In the end, it was still fun. There was just unanswered questions, new things that kind of seem to derail a lot of the MCU continuity. Maybe they'll address that stuff later, but to me it just looks like they didn't know they were going to use Captain Marvel when they were setting up everything else, and now she's here, so they have to figure out a way to shoehorn in certain things. Brie Larson really needs to bring it for Endgame, and she really needs to bring it for the inevitable sequel to this, because I know she's a good actress, but she wasn't great in this. It's not one of my favorite. It's one of the weaker MCU movies for me. I got to give it 5 gulps.
I enjoyed the movie a little bit more than Ben, at least when we were walking out of the movie. Yeah, it really is just more Marvel product at this point. They have a nice steady plateau for me. Nothing really dips below a certain level in terms of my enjoyment level of these movies for the most part, but only a few of them reach the right heights to really make me say, this is something special, this is something more than just one more in the line of 20-something movies. Overall, I thought it was paced well enough to keep me entertained all the way through. I actually thought the special effects looked pretty good in this movie. So yeah, I was entertained, but it certainly has a lot of flaws. So I'm going to be right in the middle. I'm going to give it just a little higher than you. I'm at a 5.25.
So as always, if you like this review, please click like and subscribe to Cinema Gulp today. Leave comments in the comment section below here on our YouTube channel. John, where else can they find us?
Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Animal Planet. Look for us under Cinema Gulp.
Till next time, this is Agent Dick.
And this is Fluffy Mallard. Let me see that eye of yours.
We drink your cinema.
I drink it up!
She's white, she is so white.